Welcome back to DIYs with Sonja. In today's video, I'm sharing some of my favorite high-end Pottery Barn Christmas DIY dupes. Elegant, timeless, and budget-friendly projects that give your home that luxurious look for less this holiday season. These are some of my best Pottery Barn-inspired Christmas DIYs from the past, all in one place to help you create cozy high-end holiday decor without the designer price tag. If you love Pottery Barn dupes, look for less holiday decorating ideas and high-end DIY Christmas decor, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss all the beautiful Christmas projects coming your way. For my first DIY, I got a ton of bottlebrush trees. Some I bought, some I had on hand, and also this board that I had on hand because we are going to be recreating this lit bottlebrush tree centerpiece from Pottery Barn. It goes for about $183 as you saw. Now, some of these bluish green bottle brush trees, I don't love the colors, so we're going to spray paint them with some metallic gold. I did pick up some beige bottle brush trees from Dollar Tree, and I think this gold will complement that color really nice. While the bottle brush trees were drying, I hot glued some deer moss onto the board off camera, and then I took the board out and spray painted with some dark walnut. Now starts the fun part is hot gluing these trees to the board. So these are the beige trees that I picked up at like a taupe color at Dollar Tree. I absolutely love them. I thought that they looked quite high end. Maggie and Co even has ones that are a little bit sitting on like a pedestal. But they're pretty much look this exactly the same, and I picked up three of those. Then I had the rest of them on hand, and I just tried to add variety. The at Pottery Barn you can get all just gold, or you can get ones that have a variety of different colored bottle brush trees as well. So that was my inspiration for mine. Since these were the same, I had three of these that were the same color and the same size. I spaced them out evenly, and then I'm going to fill in with all the rest of them. Once they were all on, I added some small battery operated fairy lights to them. I love how these all came together. It gives you that earthy, rustic vibe that my decor is all about this year. And if you want to see how I'm going to style with these, make sure you are subscribed to my home channel where I share all of my decorating videos. For my next project, I picked up this wooden tree. I think it's beautiful as it is, a little bit too much sparkle for my liking, but it was coming off just by rubbing it. So if you don't like the little sparkles, little glitter, you could just take it off. I don't think it was even as much of a glitter as it looked like crystal sugar was on it, but Nevertheless, it was still sparkling, so I wanted to, or glittering, I wanted to take that off a little bit. But like I said, the tree looked really good as was, but I had something in my mind that I wanted to do with it. So if I want to, I'm gonna go pick up another one like this and leave it as is. So I got some cinnamon brown and painted the whole tree except the bottom, actually even the bottom part, this with this cinnamon brown because I wanted to recreate this gingerbread tree. I absolutely love the way this looks. Now, I could have picked up a very similar looking tree at Dollarama as well that kind of went to the ground and looked more like a ceramic decor piece versus more of the rustic look that this tree has. But I did love the way this tree looked. So I thought I can combine best of both worlds and do this one in that gingerbread tree look. It did only need one coat of paint to cover it all. And then once the paint fully dried, I went in with some puff paint and created a design. I found that this was so much fun to create, and I absolutely enjoyed making this project so much so that I am thinking about going and getting some more things to add the puff paint to. And here it is. I just love the way it turned out. For my next project, I am remaking one of my projects from last year. I had made several of these bells and I found I wasn't quite using them, so I decided to take one of them and redo the look. There, I have found several different websites that had these bells. The one was this one, which was about $30, and then I also saw them on Pottery Barns, although they were sold out. And so I don't quite know how much they were. Mine was one of those bells that you can pick up at Dollarama or Dollar Tree. Sometimes they vary in the shape that they come in, but they're all pretty much the same size. So to create this look, you're going to need some thin rope. You can use thicker rope as well if that's what you want. I opted for thinner rope because that's what it looked like on the picture. And then I just wrapped it around and I went in a couple rows of it. You want to try and space them out evenly. I tried my best without actually measuring. You could also measure so that they're spaced out evenly. And then I mixed up some white acrylic paint with some cornstarch just to make it thicker. If you have some chalk paint, you could use that. I just wanted it to give it a good coverage and also give it a little bit of texture. And then I painted the whole piece with this paint and it needed 2 coats. This was such an easy DIY, and I think it turned out great, and it's gonna look great in a little Christmas vignette as part of a little Christmas vignette or styled on a shelf. I have been obsessed with juniper berries this year, but they are impossible to find in my where I live. You can get them on Amazon.com by from a floral, but they do not ship to my um, to Ontario. Pottery Barn also has some as well, which are a little too expensive for me. So I decided to make my own. So I went to search for some stems that I can use to recreate this. So I picked up these two stems, two different stems. One is looks a little bit frosted because originally I was thinking of using those berries. And then the other one was just a variety of cedar branches with some red berries and some pine cones. So I needed to disassemble everything and create my own. I did decide to make three of these, and I ended up using all the branches, even the frosted ones, but I did not use any pine cones or berries. So here is what they look like. I wish the branches were a touch more droopier, but we can shape them and mold them if that's what we want. I also left the long stems on them because I'm just going to bend them if I need to add them to a shorter vase. I also remember I had some loose cedar branches from a garland and I added those as well. That gave me a bit of more of a droopiness that I was looking for. Since I decided that white berries were too long, was going to make my own using some air dry clay that I had left over from the daycare when we were making Mother's Day presents. So I just wanted to warm up the clay in my hands, and then I just made ones that were not a lot smaller than the white berries, but definitely smaller. And I just rolled them all into little balls. I think I made altogether about 30 of them. However, I think I did not use three of them, so I used 27 altogether. Then I took all of the blue paints that I had, trying to figure out a color that would work the best for these berries. I did end up mixing a couple different colors just to achieve the look that I was going for. I did not wait for these to fully dry before I went ahead and did that. I was going to use this stick to put the berries on for painting, but it was too big, so I just ended up rolling them in the paint. And I forgot to mention that I also got some sugar, just normal sugar. And once I was done rolling them in the paint, I dipped them into sugar. So it gave them a little bit of that frosted look. And then I repeated this process for all of them. A little time consuming, but so worth it. And then I went ahead and I had glued them onto random spots on to my branches to I did look at the picture just to kind of get an idea how the juniper berries were on those faux branches, and I was trying to recreate that look. So here they all are on the branches, and I did allow them to dry fully before I proceeded to the next step. I wasn't planning on doing a next step, but the more I was looking at them, I felt like the blue needed to be tamed down a little bit. So once they were fully dry, I went in with some white paint and just added and a small brush and just added a little bit of white paint um to them just to tone down the blue a little bit. I think these turned out so pretty, and for under I think it came up to about $11. I can't complain. Next project is another ornament, and this time I picked up these ornaments at a Dollar Tree, and I needed some green ornaments, so we're gonna be making some more suede ornaments, flocked ornaments, without flocking. And I am going to make them green because the tree that I added in my living room, I wanted to make it green. So I painted them all green. I gave them um, two coats of color, and between the coats of color paint, I am going to just add some of the iced cappuccino paint to my tops just to make them look a little bit more vintage. And I am using some wet paper towel to do that. I find if I'm using a brush, it just slides off. So I let the first coat of paint dry before I applied the second coat of paint, but the second coat of paint I did not allow to dry. I added some baking soda to them. I feel like these ornaments, there are so many different but yet similar techniques to creating them, and each and every one of them gives you a slightly different look. So as these might be a little bit repetitive, but um, they're all, like I said, all a little different, and they do give you a unique look. So I love mixing and matching these techniques on my ornaments so that way I can have a variety of them. And most of my ornaments a lot of on a couple of my trees are all homemade ornaments, and they all look a little different. So once it had completely dried, I brushed it all off. At this point, you could, like I said, many different techniques. You can add rub and buff, you can add a sponge on, dab on a little bit of gold paint, but I am going to keep mine just like this. You can also spray some sealant on them so that way the baking soda stays on permanently so it doesn't over the years rub off completely. But I just love the way these turned out. I think they are a perfect addition to my new tree. The first project I'm working on is something I wanted to create for a very long time. So I'm using some tins, a gift basket, a big gift box, glass bowl, half a plastic ornament, and a styrofoam ball that I cut off just the end to fit on top of the largest canister. I'm going to be hot gluing these items to the top, so you want to just find something that creates a dome and it fits perfectly on the top of the canister that you are using. I'm using variety just to get the different heights. And I'm going to be recreating these vintage cowbells. These are large cowbells, and here in Canada, they're hard to come by. So always have to resort to shopping online. And on Amazon, they're around $50, and they go all the way up to Wayfair for over $200. Now, I'm recreating this for free because I did have all these supplies at home on hand. You don't have to use tins, you can use anything that resembles the bell base. And then for the dome, same thing. You can cut off foam balls to put on top, even the foam balls the bouncy balls that are kind of squishy, they work well as well. Anything that creates that dome shape, like I said. The next item that you're going to need is a drywall compound, and this will blend the whole thing together. Um, so that's why I didn't remove any stickers, and the David's tea canisters have the David's tea writing, it's a little raised. So I didn't worry about any of that because the compound will cover it up. And you can also use a compound to create that hammered metal look that those bells have. You can make it as smooth as you want or as rough as you like. I went with a more of a rough look because that's what I prefer, but the beauty of creating your own DIYs is that you can make them look any way you want. I even added a little lines at the bottom because some of the bells that I've seen have those kind of a a divot at the bottom, so that's what I created, and they're a little bit of chunkier on top to create the line that they have on the original pieces. Like I said, totally up to you. This is simply an inspiration piece that I'm trying to recreate. So I did this with both of them and with all three of them, and you have to allow 24 hours of drying time, especially if you go heavy with the drywall compound. You don't have to have the large container of it. Those small ones that are pink and then turn white when they're done will work just as well. I just had that on hand. Next item that you're going to need is some sort of a roll. This could be toilet paper, paper towel. I am using a shelf liner roll just because I do use a clear shelf liner for a lot of laminating stuff for my daycare supplies. So I always have these rolls on hand and I use them for different crafting with the daycare as well. So I'm cutting off 3 rings. I did end up cutting four because one of them did not turn out. And then I also had to go in and trim it. And this is simply because that roll is quite hard and it was getting squished and a little misshapen. And then I cut just one right in the middle and one cut to open it up. And this will be your loop for the top of the bells. So I'm going to use hot glue gun to glue these on. You want to allow the hot glue to completely dry before doing anything with them. Now I'm going to paint them, and for painting, I am going to mix up 3 different gold colors. One is spun gold, the other one is yellow gold, and the third one is metallic gold. And this just gave me different dimensions on the bell with almost like different shading, and that is what I was trying to achieve. So I'm not blending the paints on a plate together. I'm going to be dipping my paintbrush into all 3 paints at the same time and then painting with it. And I love the coloring that this created.
Outside, the snow is falling down and every child is having so much fun. The snowman is twice the size as me with a smile as quirky as mine. We're holding hands to keep each other warm while we stand and watch a choir performing all the Christmas songs that we love. Yeah, all the Christmas songs that we love. And in a while we're gonna go inside and drink our chocolate by the fire.
And here they are all painted. And now to add a bit more depth to the design to the bells, I am adding some iced cappuccino, which is just a nice shiny brown color. And to it, I'm gonna add brown umber or burnt umber to just darken it up a little bit. And I'm just going to place this color, this paint on random spots. And then I'm going to take a wet paper towel and blend it all in. This will just give it a little bit more depth, kind of accenting all the different textures that are on the bell.
'Cause all I want is to spend this day with you. Let me give you a Christmas, a moment we'll fill with love and joy. So
and to complete the look, I tied some rope to them. I think this turned out so nice, and I think it's a great dupe. And if you love bells as much as I do, then definitely give this project a try. And I also want to mention, if you want to see how I style these in my home, make sure you check out my home channel where I share all of my decorating ideas, tips, and it wouldn't be Christmas DIYs if I wasn't making some sort of an ornament. And I just want to share with you all the different techniques that you can use to create your own ornaments that fit your style. We are recreating these textured ornaments from Crate and Barrel, and I picked these up at Value Village. They were $2.99 originally. I think they're like $3.44 at Walmart. So not huge savings, but they are a little bit cheaper than getting them at Dollar Tree. Now I wanted to paint these in a dark almost that burgundy, dark, deep red. But I didn't have the deep red color, so I just took the deep red that I had and added some of that burnt umber to it, and this gave it that deep, darker color. I have added a new Christmas tree in my living room. Well, new to the living room Christmas tree. It's not a new Christmas tree to me. And I want to add ornaments to it that give me that moody vibe. So this is why I'm going with the deep red color. You can obviously make them any color you want. And then I added some baking soda. However, I did add a little too much. So it was a little bit harder for me to paint them, more of dabbing the paint on because it was very, very thick. Could have added more paint and just kind of worked with it until I got the texture that was easy pliable. But so my advice to you is just add a little less baking soda to it because this puffed up pretty pretty high, and like I said, but I made it work. It was a little bit it gave me that chunky look that I was going for. I did wet my brush just so it's a little bit easier to apply. And you want the whole ornament to be covered with the red color. It doesn't necessarily have to be fully covered that you can't see through it. So I was going for that textured look, and I think this ornament is exactly that. So right after I painted all of them, I added some flour to them. I love using flour to add, I don't even know, it gives it that almost like a textured smooth look. And you want this to completely dry. I did let mine dry for overnight, but it's not necessary. So while the ornaments were drying, I painted the caps and I used ice cappuccino acrylic paint for that, as well as my sponge. I always find that it's easier to sponge the paint onto the caps unless you're spray painting than actually painting it, because I find the paint just slides off. If you are using a paintbrush, I would just go gently dabbing instead of actually brushing. And then once I added paint, the ice cappuccino paint, I did go to all of them. I did go in with a little bit of black, just blending everything in. And that gave me that antique rustic look on the caps. So once the ornaments were completely dry, I brushed all the flour off that was loose. Now for the next step, you can use rub and buff. I am running very low on it, so I just ended up using some of my paints, and I'm going to go in with metallic gold. This is an acrylic paint that I got at Dollar Tree, and I just put it into to the bottom of the Ziploc bag, put the ornament in, and then I just squished it and moved it around inside the bag. And I love the different painting technique this is, and it gives the ornament even more texture, and it randomly covers it. There's no like um a smooth finish to it. I just wanted a random finish, and that is exactly what happens in this bag when you're painting it this way. So here is what it looks like. And I did this to all of them, and then I ended up adding some nice ribbon to it. I went with black because I am going for that moody look. And I love the way this looks. It looks so custom and it looks vintage, and I love all the different textures and lines that are showing through in this ornament.
I don't need any presents.
Now, to add even more twinkle to my DIYs, I am going to be recreating these LED faux branches from Pottery Barn. These are quite expensive for set of 6. I will be creating set of 4 just because I did not need 6 of them. I was thinking of painting the branches black, but then I decided just to leave them as they are. They are just clippings from my garden. And then I'm also going to use some lighting. I picked these lights, LED lights from Dollarama for 250. They are on a timer as well. So I thought that's a great thing because I can just place them, turn them on, and forget about them. And to attach them to the branches, I'm going to use craft wire that came as close as possible to the color of the branches. I cut up about 12 little pieces of wire and used pretty much the all 12 for the two branches. And I'm going to be adding one set of lights for both branches, so kind of adding them together. Now to add the lights to the branches, I'm going to unravel the lights. I'm going to put them as close to the stick, going up and down the sticks as possible. And every inch and a half, I'm going maybe 2 inches, I'm going to wrap the wire around. So that way this will keep the lights in place, flush up against the branches. The nice thing about these lights, the wire that they are on, is that it's bendy and you can shape it and you can even wrap it around the branches.
Spend this day with you. So beautiful, kissing on a mistletoe, baby, with you. Ooh, 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 ooh. And in a while, we're gonna go inside and drink our chocolate.
Now, when I get close to the end of the first stick, I'm not going all the way down because it's not necessary. So that's going to be the part that's going to be submerged in a vase. Now, if you wanted to put these in a clear vase and you still wanted the inside of the vase to be lit up, then I would just continue all the way to the bottom, but then you might not have enough for the second one. So I would just go back up again and rewrap the whole branch and then just do a separate light for the next branch. I am, however, going to just use them in my vases along with my the greenery stems that I have, just to add a little bit of lighting to the vase. So I didn't need to go all the way to the bottom. And then I repeat the same way of attaching the lights to the second branch as I did with the first branch. I think they look so nice in the vase. And like I said, it just adds that little bit of sparkle to my vases, a little bit of whimsical touch, especially in the evenings when all the lights are off, and it just makes the whole space look cozy. Like I said, I attached them to I added them to two different vases in my decor.
Cause all I want is to spend this day with you. Let me give you a
For my next DIY, I couldn't believe my luck when I went thrifting and I found this Sherpa blanket for $11.50. It is quite a large blanket and I knew exactly what I wanted to use it for. And I wanted to create Mr. and Mrs. Spice from Pottery Barn. These are $90 each. And I knew I could create this with using about a quarter of this blanket and some ribbon. So I went ahead and I drew out a freehanded a form for both of them. I just drew half of it and then I folded so that way they were even sizes on both ends, if that makes sense. And I did it, I have an easel paper that I use for daycare, and I just did that on there, so it's quite large. Then I took a marker and I traced it onto the blanket, and the other side of the blanket is just fleece, whereas this is Sherpa, and I used both of them. So one side is fleece and the other one is Sherpa, even on the pillows. Now there are several different ways that you can put this pillow together. I am probably showing you the easiest. Well, anyways, for me it's the easiest. So you can cut out the forms and sew the pillowcases together. I do not know how to sew using a sewing machine. My mom is on vacation, so that probably would have been the easiest way for me to do, is to get her to sew the pillows together and just leaving a slit so I can stuff it, and then I would have hand stitched the closing. You could also hand stitch the whole thing, which I thought it was just going to be too much work for me. Again, everybody's different. You might find sewing to be a relaxing activity. I do not like to sew, or do I not? Or I can sew by hand, because that's one thing that we learned in school. But I cannot sew using a machine. So anyways, once I cut it out, I will be using a hot glue. If you've been around my channel for a while, I often use hot glue to um, create pillows, because I do find, for me, it is the easiest way to do it. So you choose how you want to put this pillow together, is what I'm trying to say. But if you do choose to, I guess, even sew it or hot glue it, do it inside out, so that way all your stitching and all your gluing is on the inside, not on the outside. And I left the side of his stomach, one of the sides of his stomach, open, so that way I can stuff it with some pillow stuffing. And if you are using a hot glue to do this, use some sort of a tool to press the fabric down, because you will burn yourself. Or you could even flip it around, and the thicker side, like the Sherpa side, would have probably been a smarter side for me to press down on, as it was thicker. So I did burn myself a few times. So just be careful of that. So once it was done, you want to completely dry it, so that way when you're pulling it apart by flipping it inside out or outside in, you don't burn yourself. So I just did my Mr. Spice first, and then I went in and did my Mrs. Spice while Mr. Spice was drying. So once he was dry, I went ahead and I turned him inside out, or outside in.
Moment we'll fill with love and joy. Loving so beautiful, kissing on a mistletoe, baby, with you. I don't need any presents, as long as
You want to go in there and push out all of his arms and feet and head, all of that out, so that way it's the right shape and it's not folded. Also check around and see if there's any holes that maybe came apart. I did find two, which is not a big deal. Just add a little bit of glue to it, so that way you close up the holes so your stuffing doesn't poke out. Before you stuff him, you do want to add your embellishments, like your eyes, your buttons, and the little designs on his arms, like he has on the Pottery Barn website. Um, I don't know what I was doing here. I was trying to figure out the middle for the eyes. Now I use ribbon for this. You can use fabric. You can use felt. But for Mr. Spice, I did ribbons and a fabric for the eyes. And then for Mrs. Spice, I used just paint. Now, the reason why I ended up using paint for Mrs. Spice is because I wasn't loving how the hot glue was a little bit showing on the ribbons. And one way to avoid that is you can sew these in. You can also use fabric glue instead of the hot glue. That would probably be your best bet if you don't want to sew this on. If you are going to sew this, I would recommend that you do this before you put the bear together, so that way it's a little bit easier for you to sew just on the Sherpa side before you put the bottom side on, because then it's going to be hard to get the needle out if you have it closed. So that's just a little tip. You can either, you can also is it embroider it, like or is it cross stitch? Which one is it? I do not know. Let me know which one that is. All the designs as well, which I was contemplating to do. I know exactly what I'm talking about in my mind, but I do not know how to say it in English. But so I was planning on doing that, but then I just thought this would be a little bit easier, and I also didn't have all the necessary thread to do that. So I went ahead and I cut out some buttons, and then I also cut out, I was gonna use the eyes, ribbons for the eyes, but then I saw that it was a little bit too small, so I went and I just got one of those fabric rolls from Dollar Tree and cut the eyes out of that.
The wonders of life got the prettiest side for everyone to enjoy. Standing up close by the Christmas tree.
I also cut the mouth out of the fabric instead of the ribbon because I found the ribbon wasn't, I couldn't get the ribbon to curl up, so he looked more angry than smiling.
Glimmering light, I am right where I wanna be. I will be home for a couple of days. Wander around with you. You and me in the cold, thought it never be true. Wherever I go, I got you. Oh, I have stopped running, there is no way trying. You better loosen your belts. Drinking hot wine by the fire. Don't care of anything else. It's Christmas and some kind of love, my friend. I pray it will never end. Do you like to be here too? It's Christmas and outside snow's glistening. It's just you and me tonight. I'll spend all this Christmas with you.
So once all the stuff had time to dry, I stuffed the bear, and I just used stuffing from an old pillow.
Oh, it's such a charm, got you up in my arms. There's nobody at the door. You said I wish this will never be over. Darling, it's time for your present. Come over here. Now it is time to get out in the snow, lighting a light with you. Choirs will sing and the joy bells will ring. Nobody loves you as much as I do. It's a wonderful feeling from floor to the ceiling.
Once he was stuffed, I just had glued the side, and then I just tried to spread out the stuffing as much as possible. These are decorative pillows, not to sleep on. And here they are. What do you guys think? I'm not sure. I do love how well the white shows against the brown on the Mr. Spice, so I might go in and add those to Mrs. Spice, but I think she looks cute as well. It looks better off camera than the camera is showing it here, but I love them. So for my first project, I'm going to be creating the St. Jude candles from a Pottery Barn. These are bell looking candles, and I've wanted to create this for such a long time, all of last year, and I just couldn't find something that would work that I liked. So when my friend asked me if I wanted these, I knew exactly what I'm going to use them for. And I'm also purchased two candles from Dollar Tree, although I should have purchased probably four more. And then I'm going to also add some essential oils to create that cozy winter Christmas scent. So the first thing that I did is I went ahead and I spray painted it. This it will just give me a quick and solid base for these candle holders, and I'm using a metallic gold spray paint to do this. Once the project had fully dried, I went in with a couple different paints just to create that vintage almost like hammered look that those candles have. So I'm going to be using some metallic, some spun gold, some yellow gold, and then also a metallic cinnamon. And I think this will just give me that look that I'm going for. First, I tried to do it with a sponge brush, which worked okay. But then I went ahead and got my craft brush, craft foam sponge, not brush, and I wetted it, and that worked really, really well. Started off with spun gold, but then I decided to add more colors to it and just blend it in together as I go. So I added some yellow gold, and then later on I add some metallic cinnamon. By blending in all the three colors and plus the base color, it just gave me the depth, and it gave me that vintage hammered look that I was trying to achieve. I also wanted to take a moment to thank you all for giving me so much love on my last two videos. I truly, truly appreciate it, and I am so grateful that you guys are enjoying all of the DIYs that I have been creating. I have been having so much fun creating and even more fun decorating with them for Christmas, as I already started decorating my home. So once I completed one, I did repeat that on the lids as well as on the other jar. I just didn't want to bore you with it. And then while that was drying, I did melt the candles, just putting the candles into the pot of water and boiling the water, which melts the wax. And then I removed the wax strip and added it to my jar, making sure that there was some wax on the bottom of the jar, so that way that will act as a glue. And then I also used a stick just to wrap the wick around, so that way it stays in place. And then when I poured on the melted candle, because I always forget how much less is in there than what the what it actually looks like once it's solid. So this gave me about a quarter of the container of the jar of wax. So I did add a little bit from the other one as well. So that now I have two half full candle holders, which is okay. Next time, because I can always make more if I feel that I burn through it. I don't typically burn through candles a lot because I don't burn a lot of candles in my home anymore, but once in a while I do like to light it up for ambiance. So we'll see how much of it I actually use it up. I did end up adding some of the essential oils. I added, well, a little bit more cinnamon than I anticipated because the drops weren't coming out, so I took the thing off of it. But it would be 2 drops of each, and it's cinnamon, pine needles, and orange, and it gives you a really cozy Christmas scent. So now I'm repeating the same process for the other jar, and like I said, I filled it about halfway, and then I added the rest to the other jar. And then while that was setting, I wanted to do something for this tip of the jar lid. So I decided to wrap rope around it, and I used a little bit of hot glue to secure the first end of the rope, and then I went ahead and wrapped, adding dabs of hot glue along the way, so that way it just stays in place because it was narrow at the bottom and wider on the top. If I didn't add the glue, the rope kept sliding down, so this just kept it in place. And I did the same thing for the other jar lid as well, so that way they match. I'm not sure if I'm going to be using them together when I decorate, but in case if I do, they will look like they are a pair. And to complete it, I added more hot glue on top just to add the to close up the top, and then I tied it in a knot with leaving a little loop on top of it. And I absolutely love the way this turned out. I am quite happy that I finally found something that I liked for this dupe. There are lots of dupes. People use a lot of different supplies for this dupe, but I haven't seen one with an apothecary jar yet. So here's one for you guys. Let me know what you think. For my next DIY, I picked up these Dollar Tree bells. They were $1.25. I'm pretty sure every Dollar Tree has these, and I'm going to be recreating this look, although I'm going to be using 3 bells, not 5, because I'm going to be making 2 of them. So I removed all the little embellishments that the bells had, and then I went in with, again, those 3 colors, spun gold, um, yellow gold, and then cinnamon. But I'm not going to be painting these. I tried painting them and I felt that the paint wasn't really going on as well as I would like. So I went in and then I ended up dabbing the paint on instead of brushing it on, which you will see in just a minute. And I had to work in stages for this. So I went first with the spun gold, and I only did the top part. The bottom part is a little bit flatter. So I let the bottom so I did the top part and then I let it fully dry before I did the bottom part, and then I repeated the same process with all the paints that I was adding, although I was mixing the next 2 paints together and dabbing them together at the same time. But I did do one half first and then the next half once it's dried. So this project did take a little bit of time, but the end result is so worth it. For past few years, I have been obsessed with decorating with bells, whether that's the vintage cowbells or just any gold rustic looking bells. And so I wanted to recreate this because I wanted to add something to my outdoor wreath, and which is another project in this DIY video that I will be sharing. And I wanted to spruce up my wreath, but I also wanted to add bells to it. So I decided to make my own to add to it. And I am obsessed with how all those 2 projects came together and how it looks on my front door. So once they were painted and dried, I went ahead and got some rope. I have just some twine, and I also have some thicker rope that I'm going to be using. And I wanted to make like a door hanger almost on with the rope. So I went ahead and I tied a loop, and then I went with a thicker rope and I wrapped it around and created a little bit of a longer loop at the top, just to kind of recreate that look that the bells or here had. And so that way I can hang them up on my door, I can hang them up on my banister, my mantle, wherever I choose to use them, if I choose to use them outside of my wreath. And as I mentioned before, I am grouping them by 3, and I'm making them 3 different lengths. So when you're cutting your rope, you want to make sure that it's cut different lengths, or that you tie a knot at a different length. And as I mentioned before, I just love the way these guys turned out. And I think it's such an inexpensive project to give you that high-end elevated look. Especially I I've decorated with these white bells before, but I am so feeling the traditional colors this year, along with some vintage and earthy tones, and that is what all of my decor in the house is, with some nostalgic pieces sprinkled in throughout. So if you ever want to check out how I decorate with all of these things, I do have a home channel where I share all that, and it's linked down below. So let me know what you guys think about these guys. So for my next project, I use this very expensive wreath for an inspiration from Pottery Barn. And this one is a little bit smaller as I have, I think these are 10-inch round forms from Dollar Tree, but I needed a smaller one because I'm going to be using it on my home sign. I like to switch out the wreath that I use, and I needed one for there because I used the one that was originally there somewhere else in a house. So I went in my stash and I picked up all the berries that I had that were just for crafting. And then for the base, this you can't even see, but I wanted a bit of a solid base for the wreath. I use the pine needles, pine branches from Dollar Tree, and I just had glued them onto the wreath. Before I did that, I did take off some of the other branches off of a garland that I had just to use to add a bit of a different textures. I am pulling these long ones. I did not end up using these. And then I also get the pine cones and the berries all ready for my wreath assembly. So once I had all of my embellishments ready, it was time to assemble the wreath. So like I mentioned before, I'm going to hot glue the branches on. This will create a base for my wreath. It took 5 of these to cover the whole wreath. So once that was in place, I took a berry garland. This is a garland that I've had for probably about 20 some years. I still use it on my family room tree all the time, but I had switched out my tree 2 years ago, so I have a much smaller one. And so I have a lot of these wreaths left, a lot of these garlands left over. So I'm going to add that one to it. I am just removing the end pieces that no longer have berries on them. I'm also removing some berries that were broken. And then I'm also going to clip off tips that don't have anything on them past the berries. I am leaving the leaves on there as well and just spreading everything out. And now I'm going to hot glue the whole garland onto the wreath and it will cover the whole top of the wreath. The inspiration piece has lots of different berries, from large ones to small, the clusters of berries to smaller berries, from bright red to dark red. So that is what I'm trying to recreate here. I did end up adding another one, another smaller one in here, just because the first one didn't fully go around. So once it was on there, I went ahead and trimmed off any pieces that I did that were empty and just a little unnecessary twigs that were sticking out. Then I just shaped it the way I wanted to, and then I started with adding the other stuff to it. Whenever I'm working with a wreath this size, I like to add my biggest pieces first because I feel like this takes up the most space, and then I can kind of see where I can add all the smaller pieces as fillers. So guys, I would like to know, what are your colors for this year for Christmas? Are you going with traditional? Are you going with earthy? Are you mixing it all together? Are you going on the wild side and using a lot of different colors? I would love to know. I love Christmas decor. It is one of my favorite holidays to decorate for. And I love fall as a season to decorate for, but Christmas is definitely a holiday that I enjoy decorating for the most. And I transform my whole main floor into a Christmas wonderland. So let me know down below what your theme this year is for your Christmas decor. So once all of my berries were in place, I am adding my greenery picks in here, like my pine, I think I will add a little bit of cedar as well. I don't know whether I have spruce. I'm not 100% sure what exactly all of these are called. But anyways, I'm just adding them in, and then I'm going to finish it off with some pine cones. I did go ahead and grab a couple more pieces just to fill it in a little bit more. And I absolutely love with the way this turned out. I hope you love these high-end Pottery Barn Christmas DIY dupes as much as I do. They truly prove you can create that luxurious Pottery Barn look for less, all while staying on budget and adding your own creative touches to your holiday decor. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really helps support my channel. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss more high-end holiday DIYs, Pottery Barn dupes, and look for less decorating ideas coming your way this Christmas season. You can also check out my DIY Christmas playlist for even more Pottery Barn inspired and budget-friendly holiday projects. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.